Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another stream. Isaac Anzu here, and doing things on the stream, making words things stream. Chess. It's me, Isaac Anzu. I'm here to learn some chess today. Yeah, just here streaming on YouTube, hanging out, having a good time, and being a good variety streamer and changing what I do by getting into something new. And this is going to be chess. Yes, today we are learning all about the world of chess, the magical, mystical area where nothing is as it seems and everything is not quite black and white. No, that's pretty bad. Besides, the board is green and beige on chess.com. It's kind of a little beigey. Not quite black and white. Yeah, but so there's been a lot of people playing chess lately, and I like strategy games as much as the next person. So we're going to learn all about chess and figure out, brush up on those old chess skills, and see if I can't, actually beat someone at chess by the end of the week. That'd be nice. All right, let's go. All right.
Chess is one of the oldest and most recognized games in the world. It is an exciting game of strategy and planning, which is why it is seen as a symbol of intelligence. However, chess is easy to learn and can be enjoyed by anyone at any level. Chess is played on an 8x8 board with 64 squares and 32 pieces, and the game is all about checkmating the king. Once the king is in checkmate, which we'll explain later, then the game is over. So to start, let's meet the king. Even though the king is the most important piece in chess, it isn't the most powerful. The king can only move one square at a time in any direction. Here are the squares where the white king can currently move. Here's one move. Now the king could move here. And here's another king move. In chess, both players have identical sets of pieces. You have a king, and so does your opponent. Each player will take turns making a move until the game is over.
Oh, I got some achievements. Is that how this works? Just chivas?
Now that you've learned how the king moves, it's your turn to practice moving the king.
Alright. Start the challenges. The white king is marching up to the top corner of the board. Can you move the king straight up one square? Wapow. Top left corner square. Wapow. One square diagonally to the right. Kapow. One square to the side to the right. Kapow. The corner square is touching. Okay. Yeah, nice. Huh. The queen. It's the killer queen.
Chess, but the queen is by far the most powerful. Like the king, the queen can move in any direction. Forward, backward, to the sides, as well as diagonally.
There we go.
Unlike the king, the queen can move as far as she wants in any direction. The one thing the queen can't do is jump over other pieces. Let's look at some queen moves. In this position, the queen could go all the way up the diagonal. She could slide all the way across the board. She could now move all the way down here, or she could make some shorter moves, like here, here, and here's another queen move.
Are you taking notes? Are you following
Earlier,
along?
we mentioned that the queen cannot jump over other pieces. In this position, let's say the queen wants to get to this square. Notice that the king is currently in the way of the queen. So the queen would have to move to another square first, and only then, on the next turn, could the queen move here. Now that you've learned how the queen moves, it's your turn to practice moving the queen.
Let's go. Move the queen. All the way to the top of the board in a single move. Nice. The queen wants to move sideways to the right, visiting the corner of the board. This is also helping me practice left and right, because I'm really bad at those sort of directions. Slide down the diagonal and reach the lower left-hand corner of the board in a single move. Wow. Move straight up the board and reach the top left-hand corner of the square, but the white's king is in the way. Can you find a queen move where it can reach its goal on the following turn? Can't it just go here? Yeah. Can you find another? The queen can another square for the queen that can do the same thing. So it's trying to get here. Another square where it can get here. Oh, yeah, it can go here, can it? Yeah, diagonal. Okay, I had to actually think a little bit about that one. Alright. Can you find the move? So the rook is next.
After the queen, the rook is the second most powerful piece. It can move up, down, and to the sides as far as it wants, but the rook can only move in straight lines. Like the other pieces we've looked at so far, the rook also can't jump over any other piece. Let's take a look at some rook moves. In this position, the rook could move straight up, it could slide to the corner, it could move all the way down the board, now it could swing to the other side, or it could make some shorter moves, like here and here.
He says it's the most powerful piece, but I think it's a rookie. The rook wants to travel, reach the other side of the board. The rook would like to visit one of the four corners squares of the chessboard. Right here. Both rooks want to move sideways to the right, all the way to the side of the board. Which rook can reach the side of the board in the other one? This one, of course. Both rooks want to reach the top right-hand corner, but only one rook can travel there in 2 moves. Which rook? This guy. Yeah. The rook in the lower right-hand corner is blocked by its own pieces. The rook wants to move to the lower left-hand corner in just 2 moves. Can you move another piece up in rook's paths? Lower left-hand corner. So you move the king up, and the rook goes over.
The bishop is one of the most interesting pieces in chess because it can move as far as it wants, but only on diagonals. The bishop, just like the other pieces that we've met so far, cannot jump over other pieces. This means that the bishop has to stay on the same colored square it starts the game on for the entire game. In chess, you get 2 bishops. This bishop is called the light squared bishop because it can only travel on the light squares. Meet the other bishop that you have in the game, the dark squared bishop.
They're evil
exactly
twin.
Like the light squared bishop, but only on the dark squared diagonals.
They've got 2 bishops,
let's take a look at
one light and one dark.
With just one move, the dark squared bishop can enter the longest dark square diagonal on the board. Let's do the same with the light squared bishop. Now, notice no matter how many bishop moves we make, the bishops never cross paths. They never block each other. And the reason why is because they're on opposite colored squares, so they never interfere with each other. They make a good team. Now that you've learned how the bishops move, it's your turn to practice moving the bishops.
The bishop wants to move to the other side of the board in a single move. Can you find the move? Bam. This is pretty basic stuff, I think. The bishop dreams of visiting the top left-hand corner of the chessboard. Can you do it in 2 moves? Yep. The dark squared bishop is in the center of the board. Can you move the light squared bishop to the center of the board? Right have it to the right of, directly to the right of it, and have both bishops in the center. Yeah. The bishop wants to travel to the other side of the board and reach to the top of the board in just 2 moves. And you find the way. It'd have to go here, because these two are blocked. The white bishop is ready to climb to the top of the chessboard and move the bishop to the top of the diagonal. Zabam. The knight.
The knight is perhaps the most fun piece in chess.
The
It is the only
funnest
piece in
piece?
chess that does not move in some sort of straight line. It moves in a strange L shape. The other interesting thing about the knight is it's the only piece in chess that can jump over other pieces, like this.
Oh.
It takes a little practice to understand exactly how the knight moves. It goes 2 squares in one direction and then 1 square to the side, like this. Highlighted are all the possible squares the knight can move to on the next turn. Notice it always moves in the same pattern. 2 to the side and over 1, like this, or like this, up 2 and over 1, or down 2 and over 1. And notice that the knight moves from a light square to a dark square, and then on the next turn it moves from a dark square to a light square. The knight always switches colors with each turn it makes.
I learned something. I didn't
Now
know
that
that.
you've learned how the knight
Nice.
moves, it's your turn to practice moving this fun and tricky piece.
Fun and tricky. Top of the chessboard in a single move. Kabam. Knight love to be in the center of the action. Move it to the center of the board. Kabam. White has one knight in the center of the board. Move the other knight to the center. A kabam. Most of the knight's squares are blocked by pieces. Can you find a forward move to bring the knight into the center of the action? I'll just jump right over. Find the square where the knight would be able to reach all 4 black's pieces at once. Bam. Uh-oh, the pawn.
Sounds like it is the humblest of chess pieces, but it is really one of the most powerful.
Are we
When
going to learn
working
about
together,
en
pawns are the
passant?
soul of chess. Pawns have a few strange rules, so make sure to pay attention. Pawns can only move straight forward, and they can only move 1 square at a time. However, if it is their first move of the game, they can choose to move 2 squares forward if there is nobody blocking them, as pawns cannot jump over other pieces. Remember, the pawn can choose to advance 1 or 2 squares only on the first move. On all other moves, the pawn advances 1 square. Pawns are also the only piece in chess that cannot move backwards. One other thing that makes them strange is that while they can only move straight forward, pawns can only capture diagonally. And they can only capture 1 square away diagonally, even if it is their first turn. We will explain capturing in one of the next lessons. Let's see some pawn moves. In this position, since this pawn has yet to move in the game, white decides to move it 2 squares forward. Black, on the other hand, only advances this pawn 1 square. Remember, even though you can move your pawn 2 squares on its first move, you're not forced to do so.
Pawns are like way more
White now advances the
complicated
pawn
than
forward,
any other
and now
of the
both
pieces.
pawns are blocked and
If you're
cannot
just
move.
talking about them individually.
In this position, how many white pawns can move? If you said 1, you're correct. Notice that this pawn is blocked by the black pawn directly in front of it. Remember, pawns cannot move backwards. White now has the option to move this pawn up 1 square. Notice this pawn cannot move 2 squares forward because the black pawn blocks it. Now it's your turn to practice using the pawns.
Go, my pawns, go. White's pawn can move 1 or 2 squares on its first turn. Play the move that puts the pawn in the center of the board. Whoa! White has 2 pawns, but only one of the pawns can move 2 squares on the next turn. Which one? The one in the starting position. White has 3 pawns, but 2 of them are blocked by black pawns. Yeah. White's pawn may be small compared to black's 2 rooks. Can you find a way for it to attack both in just 1 move? Yes. White to move. White's bishop is blocked from all directions. Move a pawn that opens up a diagonal for the bishop. There we go. Pawn promotion. Oh,
Remember,
more
your
pawn
pawns are the only
videos.
pieces that cannot move backwards.
Incredible.
So what happens when they reach the other side of the board? They get a promotion. You must trade your pawn for another piece. It can be a knight, a bishop, a rook, or the powerful queen. It cannot stay a pawn, and it cannot become a king. Also, it does not have to be one of the pieces already captured in the game. Every pawn has the potential to be promoted into a queen. You could trade it for another queen and have 2 queens on the board, which is incredibly
2 queens.
powerful. Now, let's practice promoting some pawns.
2 queens. Wow. I didn't know that chess encouraged poly relationships. Nice. Slay King. White has a pawn 3 squares away from promoting, and a pawn is still in starting. What is White's best pawn move to play for promotion? Well, this one's blocked, so yeah. Yeah. We have a pawn race. Both sides are trying to promote a pawn as fast as they can. We gotta do that one. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Yeah, and look at that. You can't promote now. Jerk. Get out of here. Black's pawn is 1 move away from promoting. Find White's move that protects the promotion square and saves the game. It's that one. Let's capture it and save the game. Nice defensive techniques. You save the game. White is up a pawn, but Black's most advanced pawn is blocked by... White has 2 pawns. A surprising pawn move that forces a pawn through to promotion. It's this, because then you can capture and then up. Let's promote that pawn into a queen. Nice. Alright, that was a good move. Very cool. Setting up the board.
Now that you know how the chess pieces move, it's time to set up the game. Before you put the pieces on, make sure you turn the chessboard so that there's a light square in the bottom right corner. You can remember this as white on the right.
White
The
on the
easiest
right.
way to start placing the pieces is to place all of the pawns on the second rank for each side. In chess, rank is the word for row. Let's put all of the white pawns on one side of the board and all of the black pawns on the other side. Now let's put the rooks out in the corners. Let's follow that up by putting the knights next to the rooks. We'll soon learn that the knights are placed on the B and G files. In chess, file is the word for column.
Oh, rank and file.
Let's put the bishops next to the knights.
I see.
And now we're left with the king and the queen. Does it matter where they go? Yes, it does. The queen always goes on the matching square. The white queen goes on the light square, and the black queen goes on the dark square. Notice they should be lined up together. Finally, put the kings on the last empty squares. Now you're ready to play. In chess, each side takes only 1 turn at a time, and by tradition, white always moves first. Now that the board is set up, it's your turn to practice making moves for both sides.
I think I've set up a lot of chessboards wrong. I didn't know the little like white on the right corner rule. Okay. Get back in place. Yes. Oh. Surprising. This is the coming together arc. Everybody's coming together. Uh-huh. Everybody's here. And then pawns. Alright.
In order to get better at chess, you will need to learn notation, which is
Oh,
often
boy.
referred to as the
That's a
language
lot
of
of-
chess. Every square on the chessboard
Alright.
has a name, which is actually just its coordinates.
They probably just
As we
gave us a
mentioned
complicated
before,
one to show
each
off.
column is called a file, and each row is called a rank. Every file in chess is given a letter, starting with the letter A on the left side of the board and going all the way to the letter H on the right.
I see.
Every rank is given a number,
Ah.
starting with 1 on the white side of the
A
board
to H.
and going up to the
Ah.
number 8 on the black side of the board.
1
Each
through 8.
square is named by
Nice.
its coordinate pair. Let's meet some of the squares. This square in the lower left-hand corner
This
is known
square
as A1.
is
Notice we
C4,
identify it with
the
a
most
letter
explosive
first
square.
and the number second. Let's take a look and see where the E file meets with the fourth rank.
This square
Notice
is
the arrows
G6,
point
the
at
most
E4.
expensive square.
So this square is known as E4. Let's draw a diagonal starting from A1 and go all the way up the board. Notice we land on the H8 square. And in between these squares, we see B2, C3, D4, E5,
What's the D4?
F6, and G7. Together, this is known as the A1 to H8 diagonal, because the diagonal begins on A1 and ends on H8. Now that you've learned how to label each
Wait, what's
square
the
on
diagonal called?
chessboard,
I was
it's
not
time
listening.
to learn the A1 and ends on H8. 1 to H8 diagonal, because the diagonal begins on A1.
Oh, it's literally
ends
called
on
the
H8.
A1 to H8 diagonal.
Now that
Okay.
you've learned how to label each square on the chessboard, it's time to learn the notation of actual chess moves. Each piece has its own letter for chess notation. In this example, the king's letter is a capital K. With white to move, let's say the king
K.
is going to move to the E2 square.
Okay, K.
The way we describe that move is by saying the piece's letter first, which is capital K, then the square it moves to, E2. Remember, a piece always begins with a capital letter, and the square is always lowercase. So after the move, King E2, putting it all together, we say K, E2.
K2.
Let's say black wants to play King to D7. In this case, it's the same idea. Capital K, lowercase D7. So piece, then square. K, D7.
Seems pretty
We will use the same
straightforward.
idea for all the other pieces. The rook is a capital R, the queen, a capital Q, the bishop, a capital
You're getting a lot of
B.
mileage out of this
The knight, however,
letter
is a little bit
bouncing
different. Since the capital K is already used for the king, we use a
Animation.
capital N for the knight. For example, N.
That's not how you spell
E6.
knight. Chess encourages
Finally,
bad
You may
spelling.
think that pawns are a capital P. In this case, pawns are only written as the square that they move to. For example, after the move E4, the notation is simply the square the pawn moved to, E4.
Huh.
Now that you've learned the language of chess, it's your turn to practice using chess notation.
Okay, well, let's try it. Play A5. A5. Play R D7. D7 R. Okay. Play RF2. RF2. White can move two pieces to D8. Play QD8. Yeah. That was a good move. White can move two knights to E4. Play NG E4. NG E4? The knight on the G file to E4 or NG E4. Uh-oh.
You've already learned how to move the pieces, and we've mentioned the idea of capturing. Let's talk more about capturing.
Let's talk about
In chess, when you
capturing.
capture a piece,
Capture
you
my
simply
heart.
move your own piece to the same square as your opponent's piece and replace their piece with your own.
Oh
The captured
my.
piece is then removed from the board. You don't stop before the captured piece, you replace it entirely. Let's watch this queen capture a pawn. Now let's watch this knight jump over one of its own pieces to capture the queen.
Queen has captured my heart.
Capturing pieces is a critical part of the game. However, you do not have to capture a piece if you don't want to. That being said, if you can capture more of your opponent's pieces than they capture of yours, it's going to be much easier to win. One question about capturing that we haven't answered is, how do you notate a capture? Let's say in this position that you plan on taking the black queen.
Gotta
with
learn
your
how to
queen on
notate.
D3. A good idea. You would write the piece that will capture it. In this case, the queen. So we use a capital Q. You then write an X which means captures. And then you write the square where the piece gets captured. So after queen takes
Quexy.
e6, we would write
Quexy
Q,
6.
X, E6.
The X is for death.
Here is one more capturing question. How do we notate a pawn capturing a rook and promoting to a queen at the same time?
Oh,
Does
good
it
question.
sound complicated?
I am learning a lot
It's
about
just one
chess
extra step.
notation.
We start by notating the capture. Remember, we mark a pawn with the file that it is currently on. In this case, the pawn is on the B file. So we would write a lowercase b, then we would write captures, which is an X, so lowercase b, X, and then the square that we capture, A8. So BX A8. So far, we have BX A8. Since we are promoting to a queen, you simply add to the end of your move an equal sign and then write which piece you are promoting the pawn into, which is usually the queen. So putting it all together, we would write B takes A8 equals queen. Now it's your turn to practice
actually learning.
capturing pieces.
Oh, nice. Let's practice capturing. White's mighty queen is fighting against an army of black pieces. Can you find a capture for white? Oh, yeah. White is down a queen for 2 pawns. Not so good. Can you find a capture that will turn the game around for white? I think this one, right? Yeah. Up 2 pawns. Oh, yeah, I suppose so. Black is up a knight, and all of white's pawns are blocked, so they can't move forward. Yikes. You find the one pawn that can capture a piece? It's this one. Black's bishop is threatening to capture white's rook. Oh no. The rook is blocked by 2 of the pieces and can't move. Save the trapped rook. Excellent. In this position, white has several captures, but only one of them is good. You find white's best capture. Probably this one, right? Alright. We're going to learn about...
Check is the word that is used when one piece
checks.
is threatening to capture the other side's king.
Check,
basically
please.
means look out, king in danger. Let's take a look at some examples of playing check. In this position, can you see how white can threaten to capture the black king? That's right. Bishop to f6 check. White's bishop puts the black king in danger of capture, so black must deal with this check. In the next lesson, we will learn the 3 ways to get out of check. In this position, black's rook can put white's
Just
king into
move?
danger.
Just move? Is that all?
After rook d1,
3 ways?
the white
Why are
king
there
is in
3
check,
ways?
and white must respond to this attack.
Move, block, and take the other piece?
Finally, in
Probably.
this position, black's pawn is ready to capture the white knight. Remember, pawns capture 1 square away diagonally. Can you see how white can escape the pawn's attack and place the black king into check?
Go here.
If you found knight to g6, great job. The knight escapes danger and now puts the black king into check. One final question is, how do we notate a check?
You had
It
a
is
plus.
pretty easy. All you do is add a plus to the end of your typical move notation.
Ah.
This means after writing ng6, you add a plus at the end. So it'll look like this: ng6 plus, meaning that black is in check. Now it's your turn to practice playing check.
Playing check? I thought we were playing chess. 1 check in this position. Right there. Heck yeah. White has 2 knights and a rook, but only 1 piece can check the black king. Find the move. Not that one. Not that one. There we go. Black's king is hiding behind its pawns. Find a way to attack it with a check. It's right here. And the rook can go. Yeah, get him. Black's king is surrounded by pieces, but white has a powerful check. Can you find it? Right there. You find the only move that puts the black king into check. Right there. Amazing.
As we learned in the last lesson, when the king is in check, it must get out of check. You cannot ignore check and play another move you want to play while leaving your king in check. You have to stop the check. Luckily, you have 3 easy ways to get out of check. The simplest way to get out of check is to move your king to a square where it is no longer in check, like this. Another way to get out of check is to block the check with one of your other pieces. Oftentimes, the best way to get out of check is by capturing the checking piece. Now let's see you escape check.
Yep, I was right. Move, block, or capture. Black's queen has white's king in check. Gasp. How can white escape the check? You gotta move there. Not a great move. Black's queens once again has white's king in check. You find the best way to respond to this check? Attack. White's king is in trouble. It is in check, and all of its escape squares are covered by the black queen or blocked by its own pieces. Oh no. You can find a move that blocks black's check. Block. White's king is in check. Can you find the best move for white? Probably. But now black's queen can capture white's queen for free. Oh. Yeah, okay. So we just want to capture. I thought, yeah, alright. Fair enough. I thought leaving the queen there to pressure this side of the board was probably the better idea, but alright, so I got one wrong. Black's queen is checking the white king. Check it out. I see. You find a way to block the white queen and deliver a check in a single move. A zabam. But then doesn't, but we got the pawn. Oh, nice. So the king has to move there. And then we move here.
If a king is in check, and it cannot escape check by moving, blocking, or capturing, then the king is said to be in checkmate. That means you win.
That's what Australians say when they when they're done eating at a restaurant.
Again,
Checkmate.
Checkmate is the entire goal of chess. It doesn't matter who has captured the most pieces, or how long it has taken, or anything else. If the king is in checkmate, it's game over. Once the king is in checkmate, you don't have to take the king off the board. It's time to shake hands and say, good game. Now it's your turn to checkmate.
All right. Let's get that checkmate. The black king is hiding in the corner behind his pawns. Oh, but I've got a checkmate. Black's king is surrounded by pieces. It looks safe, but white can win the game in a single move. Can you find it? Oh my gosh. Is that true? If I move here, it can get captured. If I move here, it's a win. The knight checks the king. As the king cannot escape the check, it's checkmate. Black's king is trapped in the corner and cannot move. How can you find a checkmate to win the game? Okay. So, okay, so it's covered here, and this corner is out of reach, so we just need to... There we go. Checkmate. White's rook on f7 has trapped the king on the black rank. Can you use the other rook to deliver checkmate? Yeah. The old 1-2 punch. White can deliver checkmate in one move. Can you find it? Oh boy. Alright, let's see. I believe it's just move the queen all the way across? Yes. The fastest checkmate.
Chess can often be a long game with more than 100 moves played, but it can also be incredibly short if you want it to be. Many people want to know, what are the fastest checkmates? and we are going to show you, but keep in mind, none of these checkmates can be forced. These are only checkmates that you literally have to try to do on purpose because they can be otherwise defended very easily. Let's see the shortest possible checkmate on the board. White plays f3, not a great opening move, already exposing the king on the e1 to h4 diagonal. Black opens with e5. Notice the black queen is already looking at the weakened h4 square, ready to pay the white king a visit. White plays g4, further weakening the e1 to h4 diagonal, and the black queen pounces on the h4 square, delivering the fastest checkmate in chess. Notice that the white king cannot move, there's no way to block the check, and you can't capture the checking piece, so after 2 moves, the game is already over. In fact, it's time to start a new game. Let's see that idea again, but this time it will be white delivering the checkmate. After e4, black plays f6, d4, g5. Can you spot the checkmate? That's right, queen h5. The fastest checkmate for white is in 3 moves, and the fastest checkmate for black is in just 2 moves. Let's hope you never find yourself on the wrong side of this checkmate. Now it's your turn to practice the fastest checkmates.
Yeah, it's good that they tell you about this. Black's pawn moves have weakened the king. The pawns are in on it. They have betrayed the king. White's king looks weak. Well, I mean, you find a winning move for black? Boom. You are a weak king. White has opened the king by moving the pawn to f3. But did not move the pawn to g4. Black's queen checks the king, but can you find the one move that saves the game for white? Get in there, buddy. The g-pawn. Save the game. Can you find white's worst moves that allows for checkmate on the next turn? Right there. Oh, the worst possible move. You find black's worst possible move. It's this one. Alright.
There is another kind of mate on the board called stalemate.
This is one I don't
Stalemate is what
understand,
happens
so
when your
this will
king
be
is not
good.
in check, but you also have no other legal move on the board. And when this happens, it's a draw, and nobody wins. You might be absolutely winning your game and about to checkmate the opponent's king, but if you fall into stalemate, it's a draw. This is best explained with some examples. In this position with white to move, the game would be a stalemate, because white's only piece, the king, does not have any legal squares to move to, and white is not in check. In this position, let's say white plays queen to c2. The queen gets 1 square closer to the king, but notice black's king is not in check and black does not have a legal move in this position. The position is a stalemate. Remember, in chess, you're never forced to make an illegal move, so black cannot put the king onto a square where it would be captured. In this position, can you find a better move for white? White can actually win the game in just 1 move after queen b2 check.
Move there, yeah.
Remember, your opponent can never be in
Get 'em.
stalemate
Get
if
'em.
they are in check.
Don't be hesitant.
In
Attack.
this position, black looks doomed. The king is trapped in the corner. White is ready to deliver checkmate on the next move, and black is down lots of material. However, chess is a game of many opportunities, and even when things look really bad, you might have the chance to save the game, or at least draw. Notice that since black's king does not have any legal moves, if black's queen disappeared from the board, it would be a stalemate if it were black to move. In this position, can you find a way to make black's queen disappear and create a stalemate? If you found queen takes h2 check, great job. White must deal with the check, and the only way to get out of the check is to capture the black queen.
Interesting.
Now the only
Force a
remaining piece is the
stalemate.
black king, and since black's king does not have any legal squares, and black is not in check, the game is a stalemate.
That's
What
cool.
a save by black.
What a save.
Let's take a look at this position. If white played the move queen to c7, it's not a very wise move because white, first of all, could have won the game immediately with queen to b7 checkmate, but also queen to c7 traps black's king. But does that mean it's a stalemate? Not in this position, because notice black has another piece. Black could play the move h3, allowing white to correct the mistake from the last move and deliver checkmate with queen to b7. Notice if we added another pawn, just this pawn on h3, the position would now be a stalemate with black to move. Now that you've learned about stalemate, remember to stay alert and avoid it when you're winning, and when you're losing, keep your eyes open for the opportunity to save the game with stalemate.
That's a pretty stale game, mate. Ugh. So white's king is trapped. Black is about to move checkmate, but we can force stalemate by saying putting the king in check. White looks doomed. Can you find a way to save the game with a stalemate? Get out of here. White's king is trapped in the corner. No, black's king. And black's pawn is checking white's king. Can you only find the only move that avoids stalemate? Well, we don't want to move there because that is just asking for king to be captured. We don't want to capture. Shoot. We have to move the king. Oh, we have to move the queen. Yeah. Okay. I see. You've got to free up the king, their king, while also protecting your king. White is down 4 pawns, and it looks hopeless. Can you find a stalemate trick to save the game for white? We move here. Oh, no? Okay. So okay, if we move here, black has to capture the queen. And then clever. This game is so smart. Black has set up a stalemate trap by offering a queen sacrifice. White is in check. Can you find a move that avoids stalemate? White is in check. Oh, so if we take the queen, but we're in check, so we have to. It's this, isn't it? Yeah. There we go. Declines the queen sacrifice and blocks the check. Other draws.
Stalemate is just one of the possible ways to end the game in a tie. Another way is to simply agree to a draw. This might happen if neither player can see a way to victory. One person offers the draw, and the other can accept or decline. Another way to get a draw is if the exact same position is repeated 3 times. After 3 repetitions, either player can claim a draw when it is their turn to move. Or, if you're playing online, a draw will automatically be called after 5 repetitions. Another way to draw is if neither player has enough pieces to checkmate, like lone king versus lone king. You'll learn more about this later. Finally, you can also draw if 50 pairs of moves have been played on the board without any captures or pawn moves. This keeps you from dying of boredom as you and your opponent move your rooks back and forth forever. Now it's your turn to practice drawn positions.
Moving rooks back and forth together. Alright, let's learn how to draw. Wait, I already did those streams. Let's learn how to play chess. We have entered a completely drawn endgame. Can you find the move that immediately forces a draw for white? Yep. There's no checkmating material on the board. White is down a pawn, and the white's king is on the other side of the board, completely out of the action. It looks like white is losing, but can you find the way to block the position so no pawn moves can be made by either side? Right there. The kings cannot attack any pawns. Oh yeah, because they literally can't move past their own pawns. Okay, got it. White is in serious trouble. You find a way to save the game by forcing a draw. White is in serious trouble. Forcing a draw. So it has to do with this queen for sure. We want to put ourselves into a position where we can't move. We have to do it by putting the king in check. So we can put the king in check here, although that doesn't really force anything. Put the king in check here. What would that do? Force the king to move here. They still have legal moves. So if we put the king in check here, what happens? The queen has to take the king. And then the king still has a legal move. So that can't be right. This checks the king. So with a perpetual check. Yes, so we have to back and forth forever. That's how you force the draw. White is down a rook for a pawn, but the pawn is one move away from promoting. Can you find a trick that forces a draw for white? Well, it's definitely going to be moving the pawn. There we go. All right. White's rook is under attack. Black is ready to promote the pawn to a queen. You find a sacrifice that forces a draw for white. Yeah, we do that. A king and a bishop cannot create a checkmate without other pieces. Oh, that's good to know. Castling.
One of the most unusual rules of chess is called castling. This move was invented to speed up the game and do two things at once. When you castle, your king moves toward the safety of the corner and your rook comes toward the action in the middle. You literally are moving two pieces at once, but it counts as just one move. You can castle in either direction, left or right. In either case, your king moves over only two squares, and then the rook from that side is moved directly to the other side of the king. Like this. And here's another example of castling. Let's say you're playing a game right here on chess.com. Here are two ways you can make the castling move. The first option is to drag the king to the square where it will castle, and then the rook will automatically move, like this. Another option is to click the square the king is currently on, in this case E8, and then the square where you will move the king, G8. So we click E8, followed by G8, and now we're castled. Castling is a great move with many benefits if it is used at the right time. However, there are a few conditions that may prevent you from castling. First off, you cannot castle when you are in check. You must first deal with the check before trying to castle. Secondly, you cannot castle if your king would castle through a check, or after castling, your king would land into a check.
Oh.
Next, you cannot castle if there are any pieces in between your king and your rook. It must be completely empty. In this position, both white and black have to move one piece before they're able to castle. After knight f3 and bishop c5, for example, both sides are now able to castle kingside.
I see.
Finally, you cannot castle if your king has made any other move before, or if the rook you are castling with has already moved. It must be the first move for both pieces. In
Oh.
this position, the only legal castling move is for black. Since white's king has already moved, white cannot castle. Notice black can only castle with the rook on h8 because the other rook has already moved. What is the notation for castling? It depends on if you
Notation
castle
time.
kingside or queenside.
You gotta learn that notation.
Let's say white castles
You
kingside.
speak the beautiful language of chess.
The way you would write it is 0
Impress people
dash
with it.
0.
Oh.
If black now castles queenside, we would add one more 0. So it would be 0 dash 0 dash 0.
Oh, that explains what I saw in that random
One
notation
way that
thing
can help
I
you
posted
remember
in the
this
beginning.
is notice on the king side there are two squares between the white king and the rook.
I'm a little stuffy today.
Notice 0 dash 0 has two zeros. So kingside castling, two squares, two zeros. Notice on the queen side, there's three squares between the king and the rook. Queenside castling has three zeros, 0 dash 0 dash 0. Now that you've learned this powerful move, it's time to practice castling.
Yes, let's do it. White's king is ready to castle kingside. Castle White's king. A bam. Black's king is already safely castled on the king side. White's king is prepared to castle queen side. We did it. White wants to castle, but black's bishop on b4 has left the king in check. The king can't castle out of check, and the best way to block the check so white can still castle in the game. Right, with the pawn, right? Yeah. White wants to castle kingside, but notice this is impossible. Because the king cannot castle through check. But we can castle queenside. Yeah. Alright. White's rook on the king side is already moved. So white's only chance to castle on the queen side. However, I can't castle right now because it would castle into check. Can you block the bishop? Yeah, we can do that. Yeah. Get out of here, bishop. Make the move. Kabam. We're gonna learn en passant.
The last weird rule in chess is called en passant, which is French for in passing. This rule was introduced
Oh
at
my
the
gosh,
same time
is
pawns
this
were allowed
legal?
to move two squares on their first move.
Is this even legal?
When that happened, sometimes pawns would move past other pawns without giving the other pawn an opportunity to capture, which didn't seem fair. So en passant was invented. Pay attention, it's tricky. If your opponent's pawn moves forward two squares, which it can only do if it is that pawn's first move, and it lands directly next to one of your pawns, then on your next turn, and that turn only, you have the opportunity to capture that pawn as if it had only moved one square, like this. Let's take a look at that again. If a pawn is moved forward two squares and lands next to another pawn, that pawn can capture the first pawn on its very next move. You move behind the pawn as if it had moved only one square and capture it, placing it off the board.
En
You might get some
passant.
weird looks if you do this move in a game with someone who doesn't know, but it's an important rule of chess. Now that you've learned en passant, let's have you try it.
Alright. We've learned the most sacred rule of chess, according to Anarchy Chess. Okay, so black pawn just went to e6. Capture. Cap that fool. Capture black's queen. Oh. Get it. White has two pawns. We want to safely avoid the en passant. So we do this one. Capture the black rook with the pawn on d4. Uh-huh. Oh. Oh my goodness. What are you doing? Oh. En passant. Oh, there's a stronger en passant option? What? There are two en passant options for this pawn. Can you find the best en passant move for white? This is a bad one? Or this is a better one? Oh, this is a better one because it puts the king in check and exposes the queen. Yeah. But we'll win a queen on the next turn. Capture black's queen with the b4 pawn. Before or after? Is en passant the best move for white, or is there a way to capture that pawn better? What? Why would you tease me with en passant if it's not the best move?
Now that you've learned how to move, to capture, to check, and checkmate, as well as do the special moves in chess like castling and en passant,
The special
it's time
attacks.
for you to feel what it's like in a real game. In a real game, nobody's there to tell you what to move.
Oh
You
my
have
gosh.
to think and decide.
How
What
will
is
we
the right
ever
move?
know
Should I move a
what
piece?
to do?
Or can I capture something? Should I
Yeah.
or try to promote one of my pawns? This is where the thinking part of chess comes in, and you have to try and decide what your best move is.
We've got to
The
become
only
big
way to do
brain.
this is by looking at the board,
The
and
couch is
considering both your
totally.
options and your opponent's possible plans, and then trying to decide which move improves your position the most.
Alright. My little armchair is totally
Sometimes
blocking
the
the
right
board,
move
and
will
I just
jump right
realized
out
that.
at you. Rook h8, checkmate. At other times, you'll have absolutely no idea what the best move is. Let's see if you can find a good move in each of the following positions. Black is currently up 3 pawns, so Black decides to offer a trade of queens, thinking it will be easier to win the game without having to deal with White's queen. Black didn't consider what the queen was doing on the 8th rank. Can you find White's best move? The Black queen gave up protection of the back rank
Go
and
here.
forgot to ask what checks White has in the position. White
Oh.
only has 1 check, but it's checkmate. If you found Queen E8 checkmate, great job. This checkmate is known as a back rank checkmate. In this position, after Rook A1 check, it looks like Black is about to deliver a back rank checkmate. What is White to do? Well, if White decides to block with Rook E1, notice that doesn't help because after Rook takes E1, it's checkmate. Let's look a little closer. Can you find another white piece that can help us deal with the check?
The only other white piece on the board,
If
maybe?
you found the move bishop takes A1, great job. The bishop moves all the way from the other side of the board to come to the rescue.
How did he even get
capturing a
back
checking
there?
Piece.
It's such a
Remember,
weak
if you can
position.
capture a checking piece, this can often
Maybe I
be
must
the
have
best way to get out of check.
taken a rook.
In
We'll
this
call that.
position, what do you think is White's best move?
What is White's best move?
If you're thinking Rook A8 delivering a back rank checkmate, you have to remember, it's not just your moves you have to consider. We also have to figure out what is our opponent doing. In this position, White's best move is also White's only move, because notice, White is in check. And in this position, White must deal with the check first and play King H1. Now Black has to be careful and deal with White's threat on the next turn. In this position, can you find White's best move? Notice that we can capture a pawn with Rook takes E4, but then Black is able to do the same thing with Knight takes A7. Remember, when you find a good move, always look for a better move. Don't forget about your pawn on A7. It's 1 move away from reaching the 8th rank. Do you remember what happens when a pawn reaches the other side of the board?
Promotion time.
That's right, the pawn gets a promotion. Notice the newly promoted queen puts the Black king into check and threatens the knight all at the same time.
Get it.
After King F7, Queen takes C6 wins the knight. It takes time and practice to find the best move. Now it's your turn to continue practicing finding the best move.
Alright. Only the best moves here. We only sell the best moves. All other purveyors of moves are just no good. Black's queen has just put white's king in check. What is white's best response to this attack? I imagine it's taking the coin because there's nothing threatening the square. Yeah. Black just played RB2. RB2, Rook B2, attacking white's queen. Should white move the queen, or can you find a stronger move? We don't want to kill. The strongest move, I guess, would be checkmate. I guess checkmate is a pretty strong move. The game has just started, but white already has a very strong move. Can you find it? Is it this? Yeah, the rook is trapped. I guess that's how the bishop ended up in that corner, eh? White has a large material advantage. But black has just checked white's king. Can you find white's best response to this check? We've got to get out of check. We can't checkmate yet. Oh. Nope. Can't go there. I guess the best move is here? No. Okay. There. White's bishop protects the king. Oh, and the king can protect the bishop. It's not a check because the rook is blocked and that piece is protected by the king. Oh, stay close to the king and you'll be protected. White's knight is under attack by the bishop. White wishes the black king would be in the h8 corner, so white could deliver a checkmate with a rook. Can you find white's best move in this position? White's best move. Here. And then the winning move is there. Nice.
You know the rules and how to play, but now it's time to see the ideas you have learned put into action in an actual game. In this game, we'll see how two pieces working together can be a powerful force, in that a king surrounded by pieces isn't always safe. Let's take a look. White begins the game with e4, controlling the center and opening up lines for the queen and light squared bishop. Black plays c6, a move we haven't seen yet. The idea is to prepare the move d5 on the next turn and attack the strong pawn on e4. White plays d4, controlling more space in the center and also opening up the dark squared bishop. Black strikes back in the center with d5, threatening to capture the pawn on e4 on the very next move. When the opponent threatens to take one of our pieces, it's natural to feel worried. Remember, it's okay to make even trades, such as a pawn for a pawn. What you don't want is to give away your pieces for nothing. In this situation, white could push the pawn forward with e5, white could capture the pawn on d5, or, as in the game, protect the pawn and develop a piece with knight to c3. After d takes e4, knight takes e4, white's knight recaptures the pawn and moves directly into the center. Black now plays knight to d7,
The center of the board is pretty strong,
developing a knight and also preparing the next move, knight g to f6, with the idea that if the knight gets captured, black is ready to recapture the knight, like that. The drawback to this move
Everyone, to that
is the
square.
light squared bishop is blocked, and also notice black's king has no moves. We'll take a look and see if that becomes a problem. White plays bishop to c4, activating the bishop to a powerful diagonal, and as you know, pointing at the weakest point in black's camp, f7. Black plays knight g to f6, attacking white's knight, and white plays knight to g5, avoiding the knight's attack and joining the light squared bishop in attacking the f7 square. In this position, black should play e6, blocking the light squared bishop's path to the f7 square. But black does not have a sense of danger in the position and plays h6, attacking the knight and assuming that it's going to move backwards. Can you find the move that immediately wins the game for white?
It's the bishop.
That's right. Bishop takes f7. White delivers checkmate, threatening to capture the king on the next turn, and notice black's king is surrounded, or should we say smothered, by its own pieces. It cannot escape the attack. You've learned a lot so far.
Wow.
Can you put your ideas into action?
There's a lot to think about.
Let's prove it in the challenges.
Uh-oh. All right, let's try. Let's open the game by moving the pawn in front of white's king 2 moves ahead to the center. Take that. White moves a pawn into the center, opening lines up for the bishop and the queen. Oh, yeah. Black's move does not directly control the center. Push another pawn into the center. And get it! Uh-oh. White now has 2 pawns in the center. Hey, that's how the game started. Alright. Black is threatening to capture white's pawn on e4. We develop the knight. Get out of here. White wants to target the weak f7 square. Yep. We're basically playing about the game that we just saw.
Control the center, and you can control the game. We may have heard that it's important to control the center and develop our pieces as close to the center as possible, but what exactly does this mean? The center squares are e4, d4, d5, and e5. A popular, as well as strong opening move for white is to play e4. White moves a pawn directly in the center, controlling the d5 and f5 squares in black's territory, and it also opens up lines for white's light-squared bishop and queen to quickly enter the game. A good response for black is to play the same move, e5. By controlling the center, both sides prevent enemy pawns from entering their territory. If white tries to force 2 pawns in the center with d4, threatening black's pawn on e5, it's important for black to break up white's pawn center with e takes d4. When white's dreams of taking over the center with pawns have been shattered, so black should not have any serious problems in the opening. Is the center really that important to control? What happens if black wants to move pawns on the edge of the board, such as a6? Pawn moves are important when they can control key squares, especially in the center, and when they open up lines for pieces to enter the game. This move does not control an important central square, and it only allows the rook to move to a7, not exactly improving black's position. Since black does not want to control the important center, don't be shy. Let's take the center for ourselves with d4. White's pawn duo control key squares in black's camp, c5, d5, e5, and f5, making it difficult for black to activate pieces on these squares. If black continues to make meaningless pawn moves such as h6, black has no central control, and besides the pawns, only 4 pieces can move. The knights, which were already able to move at the start of the game, and each rook only has 1 square. Not a good start to the game for black. White's pieces, on the other hand, enjoy great freedom.
Good.
White's queen and 2 bishops enjoy open lines, and white's knights are ready to jump into the game with a move like knight f3. What happens if black wakes up from a deep sleep and decides to start developing pieces toward the center with knight to c6? Pieces need pawns in the center so they are not constantly attacked. Since black does not have a pawn on d5, white can simply march forward with d5, grabbing space and attacking black's knight, forcing it to waste time by moving again. Black should admit the mistake and retreat the knight, but instead decides to move the knight to the edge of the board with knight a5. Most pieces do not like being on the edge of the board, and the knight is especially weak as it only controls 4 squares. Compare this to white's knight on f3. It controls 8 total squares, twice as many squares as black's knight on a5 controls.
Interesting.
More importantly, black's knight doesn't have any safe squares, so white can attack this poorly placed piece with b4. If black does nothing, white will simply win a piece. So after knight c4, black's knight has already moved 3 times, and white can now develop a piece and win the knight with bishop takes c4. Black is in serious trouble, but should at least try to prevent white's central pawns from advancing with d6. Instead, black plays knight f6. Knights love to be close to the center.
I
of the
feel like
board.
this is the meme like, ha ha ha, you dumb
Pawns from
bitch.
attacking them. Since black has not controlled the center with pawns, how can white gain space and attack black's knight? That's right, once again by advancing a center pawn with e5. Black should once again retreat the knight, admitting another mistake, but decides to lunge forward with knight g4. Notice most of black's escape squares are controlled by pawns. Even black's pawn on h6 prevents a potential knight retreat. How can white win more material? If you found h3, nice work. If black takes the e5 pawn, white simply captures it with the knight on f3. If black plays knight takes f2, at least grabbing a pawn before losing the knight, white should not be afraid to move the king. Let's win material with king takes f2. By controlling the center with pawns and actively developing pieces toward the center, white took advantage of black's careless play and is simply up 2 pieces with an excellent position. Now it's time to practice taking over the center in the challenges.
All right, let's control the center. White just grabbed space. Uh-oh, is ready to dominate the center. Let's move our pawn to e5. Get it. We do not want to allow white to have 2 pawns in the center. Capture. Alright, how can white grab control of the center? By putting a pawn directly in the middle of the board. Start there. Your opponent failed to take black's fair share of the center. How can we open more space in the center by placing another stone? Just do that. Uh-oh. And it's time to capture. Both sides have opened up the game with pawn moves, but white controls the center and black has wasted time on the edges. So we move here, maybe? Or there. F3 is correct. Okay, so we played the wrong move exactly. But wouldn't this be the slightly better move since this blocks the queen, right? Right there, baby. Oh, baby. Oh, poor baby. Black decides to capture the other knight, threatening to capture our pawn on e4. Uh-oh. How do we prevent black's threat and safely attack this knight at the same time? Get it. How can we win this piece? Right there. Yep. We walk through this. Instead of moving the knight to g4, this time the black tries to escape by moving the knight to its least favorite part of the board, the edge. Living on the edge. Let's capture this knight. Gotcha. Oh. Well, if you enjoyed this, please go to chess.com and get those premium lessons. You don't even have to do the normal lessons because we already went over them. Great job. Opening principles. Oh. Have we already used up our lessons for the day? Understandable. Thank you. Have a nice day. Yeah, look at that. So here's a good question. I've already done some lessons. Looks like we can only do a certain number of lessons a day, which is probably good because there's so many lessons. But what about the puzzles? Okay. Wait a minute. This isn't a puzzle. This is just a game. Okay, but it looks like we can do puzzles. Fantastic. Well, we'll stop here since the game or the thing weekly lessons. You have 0 weekly lessons available remaining. Okay, well, I'll keep working on this. But yeah, check out chess.com. It's super cool. And I learned some stuff, like how to notate chess, and the knights keep changing colors when they move. And what en passant is. I have learned the sacred en passant, and I have no idea if I'll ever remember to use it. Because often there's better moves than en passant, right? But this seems like a good place to stop, so thank you for joining me. If you're in chat, I appreciate you stopping by. My name's Isaac Anzu. This has been Chess Lessons with Isaac Anzu. And, yeah, next time we'll, I don't know, do some chess puzzles. As many as we can on the free version. I'm not quite ready to upgrade. I'm already putting a lot of money into, like, other video games, actually, at the moment. Bought some stuff on Magic the Gathering Arena. Eek. Anyway, my name's Isaac Anzu. This has been Chess, the Beginning. And I will catch you next time. Later.